Hello, I'm James Talbot and I'm the AEM Technical Lead here at Adobe Systems. The focus of this video is going to be testing, and we're going to work to run thousands and thousands of automated tests against our code without having any human intervention. And in this video, we're going to focus on using the JUnit testing framework, which is a simple testing framework, and we're also going to use EasyMock to mock objects in the Java content repository. After completing this training, you should be able to use JUnit tests to run automated tests on your code. You should also be able to use EasyMock to create JCR objects and to simulate those. Now, there's two main ways of actually performing tests in AEM. You can use Maven-based tests, or you can use Sling-based tests. In this video, we're going to focus on using Maven-based tests with JUnit and also how to mock objects using EasyMock and PowerMock. Now, JUnit is completely supported in Maven, and all you do is you create a separate folder called test in your project, and instead of doing an MVN clean install, you do an MVN test. And again, we can use these Maven tests for testing methods that have no dependencies on the environment. So for example, we wouldn't want to use this. We'd have to, of course, create a way of mocking the repository, but we can use this for a simple method like you see here, where we're testing just to strip non-letters or numbers. And we'll do that in just a moment. Now, with the Maven-based tests, right, you can also use EasyMock and PowerMock to actually simulate the JCR. So if you look at this code here, you'll see that here we're actually simulating the content directory inside of the JCR. And you can see that I'm setting this up and I'm creating mock objects without actually having access to those objects so that I can run the tests in my environment infrastructure. And the frameworks that we're going to use here are PowerMock and EasyMock. Now, when a plain repository is needed for test execution, all we have to do is extend the repository test base class, and then this creates a local empty repository to actually execute the tests. So again, very, very powerful that we have this level of testing with the Java content repository. So let's talk about how to use testing with Sling and the Java content repository. First thing I'd like you to do is open up Eclipse and go to your company core project, go to source main Java, go to com.adobe.training.core, and create a new class right here. Okay, so here is our new class, and just call this a testable class. So this is a test, this is the class that we're actually going to run the tests on. We're going to have multiple different methods in this class, one that's just basically doesn't have any dependencies at all, and another that has dependencies on the repository. So go ahead and click Finish, and here is your testable class that you see right here. Fantastic. So now what I'd like you to do is just go to your code snippets folder on your desktop, and you'll see there's a testable class Java. Open this up with text edit, copy the code here, okay, to your clipboard, just as you see there. And then what I'd like you to do is paste that code back into Eclipse, into your testable class Java. Now let's take a look at this code. So you'll see, first of all, in this case, right, I have my com.adobe.training.core, and I've imported the necessary information I need for the repository. In this case, just the node, the repository exception, and the session. And those will be used in the second method. But here on line 7, right, you'll see, of course, I've defined the class. And then on line 10, I have my strip letters or numbers, and this is just taking a string in. And again, what it's going to do is it's going to use a replace all method to strip out that information, right? To strip out the letters or numbers. And then, of course, it's going to return that. And I have that. So again, very straightforward, but what we're going to do is we're going to use a testing framework. We're going to use JUnit to actually test this. And I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. Now, there's another method here called getContentPath. which again, very simple method, but this actually depends on the Java content repository. So we're going to use EasyMock and PowerMock to actually test this and to set that up to simulate the JCR. And in this case, very simple again, but it's just returning the path. So that's the class that we're going to actually test. So go ahead and save that. And then you'll see here under source test Java in your project, we have our com.adobe.training.core. So what I'd like you to do here is just create a class. Okay, so I'm going to say new class, and I'm going to call this class testable. Okay, just like so. I'm going to call it testable class test, just like so. So this is where we're going to actually run our tests. So again, do that under source test Java and click finish. Again, if I'm going too fast, feel free to stop or pause the video while you do all of this, right? So here's your testable class test. And then again, in your code snippets folder, you'll see that I have the testable class test1 Java. So this is where we're going to test the method that doesn't use EasyMock or PowerMock, right? It's just the stripped non-letters or numbers. So again, go ahead and open that up with text edit, copy that code, and paste it back into Eclipse, just like so. Okay, and again, you'll see very straightforward. You'll see what I've done is I have the imports for my EasyMock, which I don't need, right? And you'll see it's giving me that warning. And I also don't need for the repository because I don't have any of that. But I have imported my assert equals from JUnit. So again, this is just to prepare us. If you don't want these warnings, you can just delete those. Same thing for the repository. But you do need line 13 and line 4 to have this work. So now I've just created a class called testable class test, and then I have my annotation where I have test. Fantastic, right? And again, this is just a JUnit OSGI annotation, and now I have test strip non-letters or numbers. I've created an instance here called TC of my testable class that we created up here, right? And then I use for JUnit, I'm using assert equals, and I've just tested this string, right, that I'm passing to it, that I'm calling the test that's going to strip the non-letters or numbers, as you see there. So again, very straightforward, right? And save that. And then, of course, just open up a command line. So what I'll do is, again, for those of you on Windows, it's a little bit different, but just to open up your terminal, right? And then, of course, CD to your video training directory. Once you make sure everything is, of course, saved inside of Eclipse, and then CD to your video training directory and to your company. So again, I'm going to go here, right, to my video training, which I just created on my Macintosh hard drive. And then I'm going to say company. Okay, and what I'll do here is I'll do MVN, okay, clean test. And this should execute the test. And we'll see if it's been successful or not once it does that. So again, if it's successful, I should, of course, get a build success. And you will see that it says that the number of tests that have been executed, there should only be one test. You should have seen that. So you'll see my test was successful. And in this case, it says results, right? Under my testing section, it says test 1, failure 0, error 0. So now, fantastic, right? Let's see what happens if there's an error. So for example, if I do the assert equals and I say A, B, B, C, right? That's of course what it's not expecting. And I hit save. Now let's go back to your command line here and just do MVN clean test. Let's see what happens. So again, we should see I get a build failure in this case. And now if I look at the actual tests, here they are, right? You'll see testable class, test run, failure, right? And again, it's going to tell me why. So again, it's expected this, but received this. And again, so this is saying, right, from JUnit, right, it's saying that this is a failure, and it's giving me that information immediately. So now I can just go back and fix it, and you'll see that. Fantastic, right? Okay, so now let's look at how to do this, but how to do this with an actual JCR, right? And then, of course, in this case, we're going to use EasyMock to actually mock the JCR. So you'll see, again, in your code snippets folder here, you'll see there's testable class test2 Java. Go ahead and open this up with your text editor. Again, copy it, and then just paste that code here into Eclipse, and let's explore this. So I'm going to paste that. Okay, you'll see I have my same method here. Everything else is the same. Notice I don't get the warnings for the import now. But you'll see I have my test content path, and I've again specified that JUnit annotation. And you'll see that I've created a mock repository session, and I'm preparing the expected method calls there on line 25. So again, you'll see the code for creating that session mock, right? That's creating that session. I've also created a root node mock on line 27. And then you'll see, right, that I'm again using that to actually test that. And then I'm creating those nodes. And again, I'm then testing it here on line 37 once I've created my testable class. And I'm seeing that all my method calls have been executed and whether or not this actually works. So again, that's the code that will actually let me use EasyMock in this case to create those, right, to create the node and to create the mock repository session so I can simulate that in my tests here. So now let's execute the test again. All right. And if you again do an MVN clean test, it should now say tests run 2, and you should see that this was successful and that it mocked the repository. And notice here, it now says tests run 2, so you can see that immediately here. You should now be able to use JUnit tests in your AEM code, and you should also be able to use EasyMock to create Java content repository objects. I'm James Talbot. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.